Brother, let's cut the surface level noise for a minute. Everyone talks about No Nut November, like it's some kind of magical dopamine cleanse or this heroic battle against your urges. You've probably heard a million different versions of this story. You'll feel pressure, you'll feel restless. It's your dopamine system recalibrating. And look, that's partially true. Some influencers explain pieces of the truth, but they rarely tell you the whole truth.
You can't handle the truth!
So in this video, I'm gonna do two things. One, agree with what's actually correct about this whole dopamine reset idea, because your brain does recalibrate. And two, clear up the myths, the misunderstandings, and the missing pieces that keep men stuck. Because dopamine alone is not what causes PIED, and dopamine alone is not what fixes it. And brother, if all it took was dopamine balance, you wouldn't still be struggling. I wouldn't have a coaching program, and thousands of men wouldn't be coming to me for help. So today we're gonna go deeper, way deeper, because your brain, your body, your masculinity, they're not broken. You just haven't been told the full story. So let's get into it. Let's start with what's actually true. When you stop watching porn, your nervous system does try to recalibrate. Your dopamine levels do shift. Your body does feel like there's a pressure valve building inside you. You might feel restlessness, tension, random spikes of energy, irritability, or even sudden bursts of confidence. And a lot of guys mistake this for, bro, I'm failing. This means that it's not working. No, those sensations mean the system is waking up. Just like a muscle that twitches when your blood rushes back into it, your brain twitches, your reward system turns back on. So yes, part of what you hear online is correct. The tension doesn't mean you're losing. It means you're coming back online. But here's where the internet gets it wrong. And it's why so many men relapse, spiral, panic, or keep feeling like they're broken. This is where I have to disagree, respectfully but firmly, because here's the mistake. Most people treat urges after quitting porn like they're purely chemical, like you're an air compressor or a pressure cooker, like the dopamine valve is building up until it explodes. No, that's not what really happens. What urges really are, they're your emotional coping patterns waking up. They're your attachment system activating. They're your stress response resurfacing. They're your old neurological grooves lighting up. Porn urges aren't sexual desire. You need to hear me say that again. Porn urges are not sexual desire. Porn urges are unresolved emotional triggers in disguise. This is the part almost nobody talks about, because porn didn't just condition you to dopamine. It conditioned you to escape. Escape boredom, escape stress, escape rejection, escape loneliness, escape uncertainty, escape overwhelm, escape discomfort. You wired your nervous system to use your sexuality, the one thing you have control over, as a coping mechanism. Dopamine is just the fuel. The urge is the emotional engine. So when you stop watching porn, you aren't just removing a source of stimulation. You're removing the coping strategy your nervous system has relied on. That pressure people talk about, that's not dopamine building up. That's the emotional desensitization unwinding. Here's where I need to correct the story completely. PIED is not a dopamine problem. Say it with me. PIED is not a dopamine problem. If it were, a cup of coffee would fix your erections. A cold shower would fix your erections. But none of those things actually work. Why? Because PIED is a desensitization problem. Visual desensitization. Your brain needs more and more extreme visuals to get aroused. Physical desensitization. Too much pressure, friction, and overstimulation changes your sensitivity. Emotional desensitization. You disconnected arousal from connection and you reconnected it to fantasy. This third one, the emotional one, this is the root. This is why blood flow is not the issue. This is why dopamine is not the main issue. Your arousal system isn't dead. It's just wired to the wrong environment. A lot of people say when you stop, dopamine floods back. That flood is the reset. No, that flood is your nervous system saying, bro, I don't know how to regulate without stimulation. The surge is not your brain healing. The surge is your brain panicking. Let me explain. Imagine you've been listening to music at max volume for 5 years, and then one day you turn it off. At first, the silence feels wrong. You might even hear a ringing. Is the ringing healing? No. The ringing is your auditory system saying, I forgot what normal feels like. The same thing happens with porn. That first wave of energy isn't your masculinity awakening. It's your nervous system relearning stillness. That's where the healing starts. Not in the surge, but in the stillness that comes after you learn to regulate. If every guy understood this next point, 90% of men would never relapse again. Ready? Porn urges come from dopamine plus fantasy memory. Sexual desire comes from oxytocin and emotional connection. Completely different systems, completely different chemistry, completely different pathways. This is why you can watch porn and get instantly aroused, but struggle with a real woman, struggle with sensation, struggle with connection, struggle with presence, struggle with erections during intimacy. Porn hijacks the fast lane. Connection awakens the deep lane. And the deep lane is what actually heals you. This is why in my coaching programs, we rebuild the oxytocin pathways, not just the dopamine ones. Oxytocin is what makes eye contact feel real, touch feel meaningful, presence feel grounding, connection feel safe, and arousal feel natural. That's the part missing from the entire conversation online. Most influencers talk about chemical problems, when PIED is an emotional, relational, identity level problem. So Eric, what actually resets the system? Here's the truth. The reset happens when you become a man who no longer needs porn in the first place. Not the man who resists porn, not the man who white knuckles his way through urges, not the man who tries to flow his energy without direction. The reset happens when you shift your identity to, I don't need fantasy. I don't need stimulation. I don't need escape. I'm grounded. I'm connected. I lead. I desire from presence, not panic. This is where your work comes in. The emotional rewiring, the oxytocin building, the connection habits, the root focus exercises, the self-image rebuild, the nervous system regulation, the masculine identity work. That's what reprograms the entire system. Not No Nut November, not dopamine airflow, not pressure valves. Identity. Identity rewiring is the foundation of the Morningwood Method, and it's the one thing almost nobody online teaches. Now, here's where I do agree again. Restriction alone doesn't heal you. You can abstain for 7 days, 30 days, 60 days, even 6 months, and still struggle in the bedroom. I've coached men who were completely abstinent for years, still dealing with PIED. Why? Because they didn't do the internal rewiring. They didn't rebuild connection. They didn't change their identity. They didn't unlearn fantasy. They didn't build emotional capacity. They didn't reclaim masculinity. They didn't establish safety in real intimacy. Regulation is the goal. Connection is the goal. And embodiment is the goal. So yes, the tension you feel, it's not weakness. That restlessness, it's not failure. That flood of energy, it's not relapse. But you need to understand what it actually is. It's your nervous system waking up. It's your emotional system unwinding. It's your identity shifting. It's your masculinity returning. And the beautiful part, you don't need pills, boosters, pumps, tricks, creams, hacks, or any external solution. You need connection, presence, breath, grounding, inner work, and identity level transformation. Because when you return to your body, when you reclaim your masculinity, when you reconnect to real, authentic desire, your erections come back, your confidence comes back, your clarity comes back, and your power comes back. My brother, the opposite of addiction isn't abstinence, it's aliveness. And it's exactly what we rebuild here. If you enjoyed this video, stimulate that subscribe button and erect the thumbs up and the bell so you don't miss out on any of our future talks on men's health and personal transformation. And if you want to dive deeper into my world, you can download my free book, Why PIED is Not About Blood Flow, completely free in the link below. And I'll see you in the next video. Much love.